The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Joanne Mercer. Hey, Joanne.
Hey, Dom.
And Father Cory Sticha. Hey, Father Cory.
How's it going?
Before we get to today's show, I want to tell you all about another show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy called The Secrets of Middle-earth, where they talk about more than just the movies and the TV shows, but they also talk about the books and so much about Tolkien and his faith. So you should check that out wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/Middle-earth. And also, before we get to our main topic, we do have some feedback I want to get to. This is feedback on our last episode where we talked about streaming music services. And Michael sent in an email and says, howdy, just listened to the episode on streaming. Thanks. I'm not a big music person, but I have a couple questions. First, what happened to Pandora? You all spoke so highly of it. It seems like it's still around. Why don't people use it? So let's talk about this one first, because the second question's right. Different.
Pandora's still around and people still use it. I mean, but I think it's become like the radio that you don't notice that you're listening to it until you realize you're listening to it.
Right. Because the essential difference between Pandora and something like Apple Music or Spotify is Pandora, you can't choose what to listen to. Like, you can choose the first song, but it's like the radio in that it chooses for you from that. It's randomized. Now, it's a randomized algorithm with trying to, accommodate your taste, but it's not like I want to go listen to the latest Taylor Swift album. I can't do that on Pandora.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know YouTube Music has mixes, and that basically is doing the same thing Pandora does. Is you like this artist, you like because Pandora you can do Tom Petty radio or this song or whatever, and then it builds off of that. Right. YouTube can do the same thing. YouTube Music does the same thing. But again, it's you're probably listening to Pandora when you're out and about, because I know a lot of stores like to subscribe to that service or subscribe, air quotes, wink, wink.
All right. Yeah. Although, and you talk about YouTube Music mixes. There's also Apple Music also has like what I think they call it discovery stations, where they'll, based on your music library and what you've listened to regularly or whatever. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but they mix in the music in your library with other music you might like. So, yep. So other services have kind of picked up on Pandora does too. So the other question is, lately you've been talking up Apple Podcasts a little. I switched to Overcast on your recommendation years back, and it's been great. Did Apple Podcasts retool into a better product? Well, no, and I'm not sure I've been talking up Apple Podcasts. I'd be curious to where I have. I don't feel like I've been talking it up. I have mentioned its improvements that they've added transcriptions, so they have an automated transcription with AI where you can, especially if you're hearing impaired or you often have to listen in places where it's loud or whatever, you go back and refer to something, you can read what the people on the podcast have said. So that's good. I still prefer Overcast. I use Overcast myself, and I still prefer it over Apple Podcasts. I still think it's a better product. I do mention Apple Podcasts in every episode, every show that I do, as a place to write reviews, because you can't write reviews in Overcast, but you can in Apple Podcasts, and it's still the number one place where people go to find podcasts. So, and that's where the charts are and stuff. So, yeah. The
obvious advantage of Apple Podcasts is if you have an iPhone or an iPad, it's right there, or a Mac, it's right there.
Yep.
You don't have to download anything. You don't have to pay for any service. It's just right there.
Yeah.
But what happens is that you get used to a particular program or an app, and that's what you end up using. I tried Apple Podcasts, or when it was just podcasts a while ago, and just didn't like it. So I too went to Overcast, and I don't think I would switch at this point. But yeah, if you want to write a review, and please write a review.
Yes, please.
A good one, a 5-star. Then you need to go to Apple Podcasts to do that.
And I have Apple Podcasts on my Mac that I regularly look at, mainly to just make sure things are operating properly. Because, when I want to make sure a show has posted properly or want to, that sort of thing, I can look there and get a really, very quick look at things. So I have Downcast, and I have Pocket Cast, and I have Spotify, and all these different services. But the one I use is Overcast. That's the one I use for listening. But thank you, Michael, for your feedback. We really do appreciate it. I hope that helps. And let us know if you have any other questions. So we are talking, our main segment today, we're talking about, it's kind of a follow-up to a previous episode that Father Cory, you did with Father Joseph on parish management tools. We're going to talk about some software and hardware for what parishes use for evangelization and pastoral care. And maybe we should start by kind of defining that. How do you define parish evangelization and pastoral care? Maybe start with you, Father Cory.
Oh, sure. Put me on the spot.
Yes, thank you.
Obviously, it's really the mission of the parish is to evangelize, to go out to proclaim the good news of the gospel, to go out and to love our neighbor as we are called to do by our Lord. And that's really what evangelization and pastoral care is. It's following those commandments by our Lord to how we love our neighbor, how we treat our neighbor. And these are tools that maybe not technically necessarily electronic, but tech tools that we can use to help aid in that process. But both these are ultimately person to person. Everything, all these tools that we use have to reach to an individual person, and if it doesn't, then it's not working as we want it to.
Okay, that's great. Do you have anything to add to that, Joanne? Anything?
Yeah, and when you say person to person, it's using the tool that person will most respond to the easiest. So if it's really an 85-year-old woman who's not technically advanced, you call them. The phone is still your friend. Snail mail is still your friend. But if it's a young person and their head's in a screen all day and you send them either an email or a letter or even a phone call, they'll ignore you.
Yep.
So you need to be up on all forms of communication, all forms of technology, air quotes, in order to reach the people where they are.
Right. Let's get into the specifics then. I'm just adding something to our outline because you made me think of something there. So I want to make sure I don't forget it. But, on our outline, one of the things we start with is a Zoom or Microsoft Teams. So how do y'all use these tools, which became obviously very popular and important in 2020? How are you using them now in the service of evangelization and pastoral care?
Well, one thing I can say is, living in Montana, Zoom was a godsend. MS Teams is a godsend. And we've kind of moved over towards MS Teams because that's part of Microsoft Office. If you've got, I guess they call it Microsoft 365 now, you've got access to Teams. So it helps because then you can have meetings where you don't have to drive for 5 hours to get there. But also within parishes, I've heard of parishes that will use these tools for doing catechesis, where people, at home catechesis, where you could have, a priest or a catechist of some sort do like a Bible study or catechism study or something like that. And people can just, log in through their computers at home and put it on their TVs at home, stuff like that.
Yeah, that is what we do, particularly with our Bible study right now. We have a Thursday morning Bible study that there are at least 4 people who cannot attend on a regular basis because of different reasons. So we have a link, they log in. So I not only have, a television set in the room that has them on it, but I also have about 20 people in the room at the same time. So it's quite interesting, though, when they want to ask a question, it's like, hello. Okay, let me get to you.
Right.
But it gives them a sense of being in the room where it happens. And that's, I think, important for them instead of just logging in. We had a lot of that during the pandemic where you log in, all you see is like ceiling fans because people had to be there. And another way we use the Zoom is, especially in the wintertime, especially my evangelization team, they're older than I am. believe it or not,
Mhm.
a lot of them. And instead of having them come out on a night to have a meeting, I will have a Zoom meeting. It's much, they all live in Taunton, but still, it's a lot easier for them to be at home and have a meeting than to come out and come to the parish center. So it's been very useful.
You mentioned the Bible study. And again, I think as you said earlier, pastoral care is best in person, person to person, but that's not always possible. And so the second best is to have the people be able to participate through the technology. And I remember it's not just for old folks who are, or the sick who are at home, or, people who might be disabled. But I remember when my wife Melanie was, had little kids underfoot all the time, she would love to go to like these mom's mornings at the parish or Bible studies. And she couldn't take a passel of little kids with her. There was no babysitting or anything like that. And if she'd had the option to do it from home on our computer and participate that way, I mean, that would have been fantastic for her at the time. And I think that's the kind of out of the box thinking that we need for evangelization these days, to use these tools to reach people. And the challenges, because it offers new challenges, like you mentioned, Joanne, how do we let people who are participating remotely be full participants so that they can ask questions and get noticed? That's a challenge. And there will probably be, technological tools that develop to help with that. But we have to think of those things.
Well, both my boss and I have learned how to put Keynote or Microsoft
PowerPoint. Yep.
PowerPoint. Yeah, of course, because I use Keynote all the time. I can't remember anything else. Between PowerPoint and Keynote, and we put them up on the screen so that everybody sees them. I remember to put the document into chat so that they can pick up the readings for the week. You have to remember that. And if I'm showing a video, usually the Psalm on a YouTube video, then I make sure that I put that up there as well. So you have to think almost in both hemispheres, right? For the people who are sitting in front of you and for the people who are on screen.
Well, and one thought I just had too, that could be very relevant for me in the coming years as a chaplain, is doing, say, marriage prep with a couple where one or the other is deployed to some sandbox somewhere in the world,
right,
where they can't come to regular marriage prep meetings or, catechesis, RCIA meetings or things like that.
Right.
That's great. That'd be a great use of it.
It really changes how, in the military service, how spiritual care is done, doesn't it? I mean, just that ability. I think of, when my dad's generation, he was Korean War generation, a letter from home would take weeks maybe to get there, Now people are deployed and they're on Zoom every night with their families. And similarly, they can receive pastoral care from their pastor at their home base. Their chaplain's local, but they may not be a Catholic chaplain, that happens with military service. And so they can get, pastoral care from a Catholic chaplain at home. So I think it's great that we have that ability. So another tool that we often hear used in pastoral care is YouTube videos. So online videos, whether they're live stream or recorded and posted. How are you all using, video? Not so much video chat like Zoom, but video in your pastoral care?
We are still live streaming. We've cut back because we want people to come to see us again. It's good to be in church.
Right.
But we still live stream one mass from each church. So we have the 4:00 Saturday afternoon from St. Jude's. We have the 9 a.m. from St. Anthony's, but we also do the Portuguese Mass at 11:15 a.m.
Nice.
So we still do that. We do First Communions, confirmation. I just did confirmation Monday night live stream, and people were watching in the Azores because they had grandchildren who were being confirmed. And of course, it's 6:00 on a Monday night. So for them, it's the middle of the night. It's like 5 hours, so 4 or 5 hours ahead. So they're watching it at 11:00.
Nice.
But YouTube is a two-edged sword. You need to put content. If you're putting content out, you need to put content out that people will be attracted to and will watch. So I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But also with YouTube, when I use it as a teaching tool, I still like to take it off of YouTube and put it somewhere else, which again, I'll talk about later.
Okay.
Because there's nothing more embarrassing than showing a YouTube video and a strange commercial comes up.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's an important element, is because there are the ads, there's related videos, there's all kinds of other stuff. It's not your environment. So something to be aware of to be concerned about is it's an environment you don't control. That's a good point. Right. And I know you've got something to address that later. Father Cory, what about you?
I don't do as much with it. Obviously, during the pandemic, we were live streaming like a lot of other people were. But YouTube, of course, it is a great place where you can put up, think of something like Father Mike Smits, or, who he kind of became known because he was using YouTube to teach, to do little vignettes, instead of like whole classes doing, a 10, 15 minute talk on a particular subject. Of course, now with shorts, and we'll talk about other places where you can use that same material. You could put out, a little 1 minute, hey, church teaching on this, or about this saint, or about this spiritual practice, or, things like that. So it's a great tool for that, of just little things to get information out there to people. And you can have some of a community in Facebook or YouTube, although I wouldn't really count on it, especially the comment sections they're disgusting.
Yeah.
They become so bad.
Just in general on the internet.
Ways. Yeah.
Yeah, we turn the comments off.
Yeah. And not every priest or pastoral associate is going to be, have a talent for the extemporaneous or even rehearsed on camera presentation. And it's so it's not that you have to do all these things. Do what fits your talents, or what, you have talent for in your parish, but do something. But certainly.
And by the way, this is something where, talking for those who work on the diocesan level, this is where dioceses need to really support their parishes. Our diocese is, we've finally, about a couple of years ago, hired a guy who's got some experience in doing online and video editing and stuff like that. And he's doing a good job. He's doing interviews with people and things like that. But my small parish if I don't have the experience, nobody has the experience.
Right.
So this is where dioceses can really help parishes by giving them resources, if nothing else.
I worked for the Archdiocese of Boston a decade ago, more than that now, as, in that role, helping parishes. But back then it was the more basic, like getting parish to have websites.
Put your bulletin on the website. You don't have to just print it out.
Yes,
those were the days.
Yes, that was when we had a third of our parishes had a decent website, a third had a bad website, and a third had no website at all. I mean, it's different today. But yeah, dioceses really can help support, have someone who can conduct regular workshops and trainings on how to do these things and best practices. And I was saying, like, during the pandemic, dioceses should be helping parishes figure out what's the best way for the cameramen to do their job in a live stream mass. What should they be focusing on and when? And, the more practical aspects, like, should we just have one camera that focused on the altar, or should if we have multiple cameras, what should they be doing? And because I always complained that our parish, it's like during the offertory, right? He'd be like, there'd be music playing and he'd be focused on the piano. It's like, there's actually stuff going on the altar we should be looking at. It's not like a TV show. So rant over.
No, I've had the same rant. Don't worry.
So social media, other ones like Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, those are other tools to use. And then there are tools that are associated with that, ones that help you schedule posts and things like that. So Buffer, Hootsuite, Social Pilot, use cases. I see parishes use these in all kinds of different ways. How do you see these being used for parish evangelization, pastoral care?
Again, this going back to YouTube, the shorts could also be posted to Instagram, can also be posted to TikTok. Obviously, announcements, posting, the priest posts his homily, whether physically or recording it as a podcast. That's a good place to post it. Quick outreach to parishioners. I think this is a big one, especially again in more populated areas. I still struggle with people here who they have a phone, but they don't even know how to leave it in the car. Things like that. They forget they even have the goofy thing or how to use it. But there's a lot of people that you're not going to have a phone tree. You're not going to, your parish is too big, but you'll have people who are signed up on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. And so, hey, we got a blizzard coming in, for the three of us up in Northern Climes, we know this situation.
Yes.
Blizzard coming in. We're shutting down the church for the weekend.
Right.
We don't want people to be hard. We want you to stay home, stay warm, stay safe.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
and the different services, like I'd say X and TikTok I feel like they're the least focused in the sense of it's the most broadcast to the world. Whereas like Facebook and Instagram, to me, feel like they have the most immediate connection to a community where people can subscribe and see things. Yep. I love Instagram for the photos. If your parish has events and likes to post images or video from your events, put them up on Instagram. I think that'll be great. And on Facebook. How about you, Joanne?
Our biggest problem has been, because we are a collaborative, each one of these parishes had their own Facebook page. So now we created the collaborative page and have really tried to get people to move to the collaborative page, which they don't. But yet we don't want to cancel the others because that would cause angst.
Right.
So it's a matter, we've got about 800 on the collaborative page, but we still have these little outliers. So that's the one thing. When you're in this type of situation, you need to have one place where everyone can get the information. Right. And that's what we try to do with the collaborative page. And every week I put the bulletin, a link to the bulletin so folks can get it. This is on Sunday morning, and 15 minutes later, the kids get a video from YouTube called Catholic Kids Media, and it's the readings of the week.
Nice.
So that in there, they get the real reading, but then there's an explanation and cartoon as to how it, all goes together. So we do that. I just put up, that tomorrow night we're having a theology on cork, so it goes up there. Everything that we do, plus we have a few other people who are picture takers, and they love to take pictures at all of our events. So the picture takers upload their pictures to Facebook, and now everybody's sharing pictures. And where'd you get that picture? Oh, the collaborative. Yep. So It's a great outreach. As far as X and TikTok, I don't want to go near them for the parish. Parish is no way. Yeah. Instagram, I'm still having conversation as to whether we should open up an Instagram account, because I know there are more people there. Right. And since a lot of people doing pictures, that might be a good place too.
And Instagram cross post to Facebook, you can have it cross post. So.
And vice versa, I believe, as well. So anything you could set up, I believe you can set up your collaborative page that anything that's posted there will go over to Instagram as well. Yeah. And you kind of, you kind of hit on my little peeve of, okay, your parish is no longer a separate parish. This page will be closed on X date. If you want information about your collaborative, go to this page. And yes, people are going to scream. They're going to yell. But sometimes, we all learned this as a kid. Sometimes you just got to rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, right.
And that is a tough part with was that?
I said no other comment. I agree with you, but no other comment.
Yeah, no, it's a... And that is kind of a challenge when using some of these tools is they move so quickly. Like, again, you're talking about, we're arguing whether or not to use Instagram. It's like, no, that time is gone. Instagram is much more mainstream than Facebook is now.
Right.
Yeah.
And, and that's like, that's where they talk about, all the boomers and the Gen Xers were on Facebook, and all the millennials and after are on, Instagram or Snapchat. Actually, I think Snapchat's kind of even gone away.
Yeah, it's TikTok. So it's TikTok where they all are. and there's a bit of, you mentioned this earlier, Joanne, people are sort of segregated by their age and cohort into different places. Facebook tends to be older folks, Instagram, TikTok tend to be younger. Depends on who you're trying to reach. And there's a lot of people who aren't on any of that. And so, we rely on things like there's a specifically Catholic service called Flocknote, which it's designed to do reaches people where they're at. So people choose how they want to receive messages from the parish, whether it's a text, email, on social media, a direct message. You decide as an individual how you want to get the information, and the parish just has to put it in one place, and it goes out however you've chosen to receive it. And it's nice. Flocknote has a couple of options, like it can have groups within the parish. This is the liturgy committee, and this is the youth group, and that sort of thing. So it's got a lot of features, and so that messaging and texting thing is really great for Flocknote. That we can reach young people. Oh, yeah. But then there's other things like email. It does email. There are dedicated email services like Constant Contact or MailChimp, and there's others out there. I don't love those for parishes, but those can work, especially if you are intent on doing a newsletter. But how do you all think about, the Flocknote newsletter email sort of thing?
Again, when you're talking about having instant communication, you really can't beat texting. Emails, again, hit or miss. There's email is it's used, but I think people do still kind of see it as a formal form of communication, like sending a letter.
Yeah.
I think and it doesn't help much that a lot of organizations, a lot of companies, a lot of government organizations, they view email as if you had typed up something on letterhead and sent it out. And so it's seen as as a formal communication, but a lot of people message, and this is something where we talk about generations. That line is blurred. If anything, young people aren't messaging just because they see their folks doing it, but not because they don't. It's just they don't want to because their folks are, they see as their folks things. But my dad, who's in his 70s, messages all the time. He's texting all the time. So to have these tools available where you can just very easily send out a message to the parish, whether it is, here's, like Flocknote, we'll send out, here's the readings for the weekend, read it to get, to help you get ready for Mass on Sunday. It'll give you, things that you can do for upcoming events and stuff like that. And then it can also do, again, the blizzard is coming and we're shutting down for the weekend messages.
Yeah, Flocknote is good for that because there's also a component where it will call people. So if you get into that emergency situation, yes, it costs a little bit more money, but for that one time to help those folks stay home and not venture out in an emergency, it is truly worth it. The one thing, Flocknote has become a godsend for us, at least anyway, because we use it in many different ways. Yes, we use the email, we use the texting because our safe environment regulations tell us we're not supposed to be using our own messages.
Right.
Like I shouldn't be using my telephone to message a group of kids.
Right.
So using it through Flocknote and a group has been the best godsend ever. Also, it's a great place for signups. If you have, whether or not you're collecting money for a sign up, we have a barbecue that's going to happen the end of June. And yes, we can collect the funds. We also use it for faith formation to register. But I'm part of doing the Jesus the Eucharist study right now for the National Eucharistic Revival. And I use it to sign up everybody who wanted to come to the study. And it's great because they put their info in. And if they're already in Flocknote, they don't have to do anything else. If they're not, they sign up for Flocknote. We get them and we have them in our files. But Flocknote has become, you can have a little bit or a lot. And it's up to the parish or collaborative that needs it to use it in the way that they choose. It's a very robust program.
Right. And you make a good point about the texting from your own phone, communicating from your own phone the safety of using a third party service, and be aware of the culture of where you are. If people in your area, not just kids, but young adults or whatever, all use WhatsApp, setting up WhatsApp rooms or channels, or groups, whatever the terminology is, for your group, that could work, especially if it's it's a third party service. It's not coming directly from your phone, and you've got a group that works too. So you think of find out what people are using in your area too. And that could also be useful.
We just started that with our staff.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And by extension, I've heard of parishes using like Slack or Discord for their own private use as well.
Right.
And that helps a lot too, where you can do channels where this is a religious ed channel. This is, that's not as common, but it is out there too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Joanne, I think you were alluding to earlier our next category of using things like AirPlay and Apple TV and Roku and Chromecast and, streaming hardware. How do you use this stuff for your work?
Well, I'll try to lump them all together. But it started in the pandemic, where my pastor, when he had nothing to do during the day, a lot of the times, went out and actually ordered in a lot of television sets, 75, 85-inch TVs that he could get on the cheap, and put them in all of the parish centers, halls, church. Each church got one. And so we could use it when everybody comes back. And it was the best thing because we had them. But then it was, when I got there, it was like, they have these HDMI cords attached to them. And like, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Instead of directly connecting it to a device Right.
Yep. So that's when I looked into Roku's, because I love my Apple TV. Don't get me wrong. But if you're trying to buy one for 14 different television sets, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
We ended up getting the Roku sticks or the Roku Expresses, which we then Velcroed to the TVs. And these are also good to use as projectors. Yep. So it was something that we knew that if we could put it on a TV, but if we needed to use it somewhere else, we could. Then, of course, I got real technical and got the network attached storage with the Plex system to put our movies, our videos, and whatever else in, so that they can be used not only physically at St. Anthony's, but across town at St. Jude's, just by hooking into the Plex program.
So you don't have to run it off of YouTube. It's run locally,
right?
And you don't have to worry about it, even like it necessarily having internet access if you've got a network in the space, whether it's the church or the hall.
Right.
Yeah, both places have their own dedicated networks, but because they sign into the Plex, then they can get what they need and it's easy to teach people who already have an idea of how to use a Roku or a device like that at home. So it's not like you're giving them something else to do. You're like, here, go to Roku, go to Plex, then the menu will drop down and you pick your classroom, you pick your directory, whatever you need. It has really worked out for us. And it's something that is, again, takes a little bit of time. You got to have somebody with it. My boss and I both are techies. So we were able to put this together, but it's something that is available to folks. It's not going to be too foreign. Yeah, the older folks have a little, but the younger ones, oh, no problem. Like the kids are the kids are showing the older ones how to do it. Oh, this is how you do it. And the kids are getting it. But everything's locked down too. So there's only apps that they can use that are approved. YouTube is locked down.
Good.
It's there, but it's locked down because I still have people who don't want to give me things ahead of time. And I'm like, well, it's your fault if you get the commercial.
Right.
Not mine.
Right.
Yep.
But, we have Catholic TV on it. We have a couple of other things on it, and that's it. That's all you get. And they can't get into adding apps either. I took care of all that.
One thing our diocese did a few years ago is they entered into a diocesan-wide agreement with formed.org, which Formed is an amazing Catholic channel or Catholic site. I think it's Augustine Institute and a couple other organizations have come together to do this site. And there's so much material out there And it's so, they've got Bible studies that you could have people come to the parish hall, come to a classroom, and then stream the Bible studies. We've done, in my previous parish, we did a youth group, high school age youth group, and used programs from that. I've done marriage prep. Again, this is, with distances, sometimes it's easier for me. Actually, I found it to be a lot easier for me to just, give the couple the workbook that goes with it, which, by the way, you can just print off right from form.org, print off the PDF, give it to them and say, okay, in your time, at your schedule, watch this, and then let's get back together and talk about it. So stuff like that, where you can use a resource like formed.org to do all these kind of classes and materials. And of course, then there's just movies and all that kind of stuff out there. But that's a great use that you can do in your parish too. And like I said, you can do it as a group study, but you're not having to worry about DVDs. You're not having to worry about, it's just, okay, again, go on your Roku, go to the Formed page, go to this Bible study, hit play, and then talk about it.
And but things do go wrong. Okay, so if you've got a tech smart person in the room, you've got to be ready for that. Like, for instance, the other day we were watching the video for the study, for the Eucharistic study, and as sometimes happens, the network went down at St. Anthony's. So all of a sudden, my people are sitting there going, now what do we do? Took out my computer, hooked it up to the projector, went straight, found out I knew where they were, clicked it on, and I said, and that's how you do it. Yep. So you've got to be ready for that kind of stuff too. You can't, even though you know that these things work, these things also fail.
Mm-hmm. Having clear instructions printed out for people to follow, that sort of thing, especially, and including how to do it when it doesn't work the way you want. That there's a huge value in doing that. Think about that. Have a 3-ring binder with sheets of this is how you do all the different things. Very clear, very broken down. Think like people who aren't techies. That's really good. And by the way, talking about getting YouTube videos onto Plex, some folks may wonder how you do that. To avoid the ads. We're trying to avoid ads on catechetical materials. We're not trying to cheat people or break copyright.
Right.
But there is for the Mac. There's an app called Downie that I recommend. DOWNIE. It's in Setup. I haven't mentioned Setup in a while, so there's your bingo game.
Okay, here we go.
It's also available separately. There are others as well. I really like Downie, but it's just you throw the URL from YouTube in there and it downloads the file. Easy peasy. And then you throw that on the Plex. So
see when I've used this 4K video downloader, 4kdownload.com. It's, it's that one's cross-platform. So that's the advantage of that one. So that will work on Windows or Linux, but it's the same kind of thing. It downloads it, but use it only for legal, fair use. Don't use it to pirate stuff you shouldn't be.
Right.
And I'll be talking about mine as my pick of the week. But just to finish this all off, that's okay if you're showing stuff in. Now, how do you get stuff out? We use Mevos. We invested in Mevos. The previous parish I was in invested in very big cameras, but we're a little bit smaller and poorer. So we invested in Mevo and an app called Mevo Multicam, which allows us to, here we go, use our iPad. And we have 2 dedicated iPads that we click into all of these cameras, and then like a studio, TV studio, we position the cameras and then we move through them during any type of a live stream. The only thing about Mevo is I find that their Zoom capabilities are not as good as other devices you can use. And I hate to say this, my own, if I set up an iPhone or a iPad to be part of the stream, to be part of the multicam, I get a better zoom out of it from farther away, unfortunately. But for right now, these Mevos are the best things that we have, and it gives you the ability to get over people's heads and get to the altar and see the bishop up close. And that's what I was doing with confirmation. You just have to know where to put them and then watch and then follow the mass.
Yeah. If I were to describe the Mevo, it's like a webcam that doesn't have to be attached to a computer to work. Like a webcam has to be plugged into a computer, whereas a Mevo is connects to the network, and then you can control it remotely.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is closer to more like the pan tilt zoom type cameras you can buy now.
But much less expensive.
But
yeah.
Much less expensive.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. And we do have dedicated iPads now. So it's not like, okay, we're going to use some. That's one thing I want to say about iPads. And we're going to, and then Dom can talk about his new thing.
Yeah.
iPads are very, something that a parish should have.
Mm-hmm.
And they should, if you're going to use them, they should be dedicated for a purpose. So you can buy the cheaper ones, the base level ones, and have them for your next bazaar, say. Put a square on it, because people don't always have cash anymore when they come to your programs or your festivals or your festas in Portuguese. And so these things are good for that. But then to have them dedicated just for multicam and things like that, they're worth the investment. Yep. So iPads can be your friends in the parishes.
Well, and we've talked before about having like a kiosk in the back of your church for online giving. Mm-hmm. Or electronic giving, and iPads can do that. Like you said, with Square, you can set it up where it's a dedicated device that you go and you swipe your card and you punch how much you want to give, and it does it.
I remember when we were doing regular live streams, that our guy who was doing it, he controlled all the cameras from an iPad, so he could walk around and switch cameras. He did like a 3-camera setup, I think, and switch cameras and do all that stuff from the iPad. But even just using iPads in catechetical situations, where you're sitting down with kids and you're showing them stuff. And if you've got an iPad with a pencil, you can draw on it and circle and that sort of thing. You don't always need a full-fledged computer in order to do stuff. Go ahead.
And that's where we talked about, AirPlay or Chromecast, depending on if your iPads, or let's be vendor in specific, or Android tablets or other tablets that can do similar functions, Windows tablets, because Apple doesn't have the only tablets on the market.
90% of them.
No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. But they're the most popular, but that doesn't mean they're the only ones.
That's
and they're
right.
not. And let's be honest, iPads might not always be the right tool.
Yeah.
There might be times when you want something that you can lock down better for a much more dedicated purpose.
Sure.
And so, I mean, it works both ways, but either way, you can use Chromecast or AirPlay and take whatever's on your iPad, or use your iPad the AirPlay as a second screen, things like that. So there are uses for that. I mean, it's not not just a controller device, but also a display device.
Well, on every Roku, there is AirPlay. So that's why we went, instead of when Apple had it locked down, it would be really expensive for us to outfit the 14 TVs, but not with AirPlay on the Roku.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was a godsend.
Yep. So those are a bunch of different pieces of tech that can be used in parish evangelization and pastoral care. Folks, you probably have other use cases. I'd love to hear how other people are using tech to do these things in their own parishes, their own ministries. You can let us know by going to sending an email to technology@sqpn.com. If you send it to secrets, it goes to a different show. If you go to technology@sqpn.com, we'll get that feedback, and we'd love to share it on a future episode. So before we move on to our headlines, we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Technology, including Cameron and Charlie M., Jack M., Mercedes S., Tim D., and Kevin M. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Technology and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So we have a couple of headlines having to do with OpenAI today. One, I'm not going to judge them. I'll just read them because you could judge them either way. But the first one is from Business Insider, and the headline is OpenAI exec says today's ChatGPT will be laughably bad in 12 months. And that's a headline grabber that just grab your attention. But what's he talking about? Well, he's saying that ChatGPT is improving so quickly that in a year from now, we're going to look back and go, wow, that was so primitive. And he talks about how it will, how does he put it? It will capable of complex work and have a system relationship with users, making it a great teammate. And so what do y'all think of this? I have an idea of what he's talking about or could possibly be talking about, but what do y'all think of this, of the idea of this, the future in a year of what generative AI and ChatGPT specifically will be like?
I saw an article kind of related to this where they want to get beyond just the generative aspect of AI. They want to get more predictive in the AI, that the AI is going to predict what you want. Kind of what Google and Apple and Amazon have been trying to do with their voice assistants, trying to predict your needs before you actually ask for them. And I think that's a big part of it, is they want to make it so that, because right now, largely we've mentioned, I know multiple times on these shows, that AI right now is basically autofill,
right,
looming large. What's the next best word for what you're trying to say? And I think they really want to get AI. They want to get ChatGPT so that you'll ask a question. It will not just give you the answer to that question. And, oh, by the way, here's more information that I know you're going to be looking for. Things like that.
I'm sort of wading into the AI water very carefully, because I'm looking at AI as something that gives me more information or a better explanation than Google can. And I'm finding that if I phrase it a certain way, I get a really nice explanation that I can understand. Do I want that to be better in 12 months? Oh, yeah, it would be nice. But I don't want them to get so wacky with this that I'm going to run back to Google and just keep looking things up in Google, because I know how Google curates things now. ChatGPT doesn't seem to do the same thing. It seems to cull things from everywhere. Correct me if I'm wrong. So my concern is, don't try to go so fast. Do it right. Just don't go fast.
I just changed my pick of the week because I want to discuss something that's directly related to that, Joanne, and maybe this will be something that will help you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, and
Thank you.
And an obvious concern with AI that we're starting to see is, how do you train it? Because not just what material are you using to train it, are you able to use everything possible, or because of copyright issues and things like that are popping up, is it against the copyright of a movie or a book to have the AI learn off of that? And that's argument that producers are making, and that hurts what the AI can then do.
One thing what I'm hoping will happen with AI, but I don't want it to be ChatGPT, to make it clear, is I want, when he talks about complex relationships, a systematic or system relationship, be a teammate, I want, well, frankly, Siri eventually, or whatever it is that Apple puts on my device, to predict based on the totality of my to-do list, my calendar, the work that I do on a regular basis, to predict what I will need from my stuff, my Mac, my iPad, my phone in the near future, and be ready with it. Because Father Cory, you mentioned right now, like when at a certain time of the day, if I pull down on, to search for an app, I will get a different list of apps there on that pull down on my phone. And like in the morning, it'll be, I like to say my rosary in the morning, and I use a rosary app. And so it's like, boop, it's there, in the morning. But at 4:30 in the afternoon, when I pull down, it'll show me my recipe app, because that's when I'm getting ready to make dinner, So that's the very basic form of it. I wanted to, but I don't want OpenAI to have access to that information, or Google. I want it to be on my device. I don't want, all of my personal information to be sucked up into somebody else's learning algorithm model thing. You know what I mean? That's what I'm hoping for. When he talks about what we're doing now will be laughable compared to what we will have.
Well, and that, I mean, that's the balance that we saw again with the previous voice assistants, the Siri and the Amazon and Google, where because Siri was much more restrictive, it was kind of hindered by that versus Google that had not just your data, but had,
everybody's
terabytes and more data than anybody could have ever imagined up to that point available to answer your question or do your thing.
Right. I'm also hoping that's go so good.
And I was going to say, and that's going to be the issue too with AI is the on-phone AI, which, Google and Apple and other Qualcomm and other organizations are working really hard to set up.
Yeah.
How much access they have outside of your data is going to be the question.
I also wanted to get beyond Alexa and Siri and those guys, where we have to modify ourselves to get what we want, in the sense of, if I ask Alexa something, I have to think carefully how I'm going to phrase my question so that it actually does what I'm asking it to do, because, it doesn't understand like a human would, from context or from clues. Whereas AI is getting to the point where it can start to understand more free form conversational questions and dialogue and back and forth.
Yeah.
That needs to get into those devices. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Being able to say, okay, it's time for bed. And it knows that, okay, in 5 minutes, I'm going to be heading to the bathroom and I'm going to be doing this and I'm going to want this played before I go, and it just does it. It's like, okay, when you get into the bedroom, when I sense you're in the bedroom, then we'll, turn on the light there or whatever, we
want it to be like, say, in the movie Her, to transition to our next headline.
I'll get it. I get it.
So this is an interesting one. The movie Her, which came out about a decade ago, starring Scarlett Johansson as
really
the voice.
Been that long?
Yeah, as a voice of an AI assistant, and oh my gosh, from the tip of my tongue, the Joker played Joker.
Heath Ledger,
Joaquin
Phoenix. Right. Thank you. Yes, the other Joker.
The other Joker. Yeah.
Which isn't a movie I really liked, to be honest. I didn't watch. I never even finished the whole thing. I don't know why. I just didn't like it. But anyway, she was Scarlett Johansson, the actress, was the voice of the AI assistant in that movie. So ChatGPT, OpenAI, its latest version of ChatGPT, has this now voice thing where you can talk to it and has a voice assistant, and you can choose from different voices. And so a year ago, the CEO of OpenAI contacted Scarlett Johansson and said, would you be the voice? Could we use your voice for our assistant or to be one of the assistants? And she said no. And then before the demo of their new ChatGPT's new model, which has this new feature, they contacted her again, and she didn't have a chance to respond. And then a few days later, they released the product, and there's a voice in the product called Sky, which, let's be honest, sounds a lot like Scarlett Johansson. And so much so that she had friends and family contacting her saying, I didn't know you agreed to do this. And I listened to it on mine, and it's clearly sounds like Scarlett Johansson. She's obviously initiated legal proceedings, and they've responded by saying that we're pausing the rollout of this particular model, and that's or at least this particular feature. But although I can still access it on my version, so I don't know. I downloaded the Mac app, and it's still in the Mac app, so maybe they'll update the Mac app to take it out. But what do y'all think?
This AI personalization isn't going so well. First, it was Catholic Answers with the priest personalization, and now it's ChatGPT becoming Scarlett Johansson without her permission. Yeah, that's not going so well, is it?
Yeah.
This is what happens when you deal with the arts. I mean, and she makes her living by using her voice, her features.
Yep.
So if you're going to start messing with that and saying, well, it doesn't quite exactly sound like her, it sounds like her with a cold, or it sounds like her with, no, you're getting into a really gray area here. But I know they want these voices to sound human. Well, you're going to bump into a lot of technical legal problems when you do that. So I get it.
They might have got away with it even if the CEO, Sam Altman, hadn't tweeted out one word, her, when introducing this feature.
Right.
Like, duh. Like, what do you think was going to happen? So not smart tech. But even like more broadly, though, I don't want to talk to ChatGPT. I have very specific things I need it to do for me, but I just don't want it to be more human-like. I don't want these things to become more human. I want them to remain computers that I could maybe use voice with and maybe, intelligent, but I don't want it to have a personality. I don't want it to talk to me like it's my friend or like it has a history or a backstory. I don't want a relationship with it. It's a tool, and I want it to stay a tool that maybe I can sometimes talk to get to do the things I want.
Well, this we're talking about again, what the next step for AI in the previous article is, trying to get it so it is more human. And, they could solve this. They could get the old Fred text to speech from Macintosh from way back when.
Fred text to speech the translator.
Oh, no.
But no, there is a balance because, as voice assistants have shown, we do want the ability to, play this song, do this, do that, and it will do it. But we shouldn't want, I don't think, a relationship with a computer.
No, that was the message of her.
Right. Exactly. I don't want Aloysius and Shlomo to be my best friends.
Yep.
But I want them to, talk nicely to me. That's it.
Yeah. I don't want to be a best buds with my toaster or my fridge. Sorry.
I want it to be my servant, and I want to be, and rather than having to type on it, I want to talk to it. That's so much. Like I want a robot. I just want a robot. I don't want an android like Data. I want a toaster.
Now, I do want one of these smart fridges, and I want to be able to go, hey, fridge, I'm going to the grocery store. Do I need anything? Oh, yes, you're down to 2 eggs, and you need this, and you need this. Oh, thank you very much. Can you send that to my phone? Oh, perfect. Great. Thank you. That's it.
That would be so awesome.
End of it.
That's it. That's all you want.
Exactly.
I want you to tell me what I have, what I don't have, and what I need.
Recognize my speech, but I don't want to be your pal. I just don't want to be friends with Alexa. All right. And then our third headline is not related to AI, but it's a serious tech issue. It's an expensive tech issue, which is from CNN. It says fender benders mean serious high-tech repairs now. And what they're getting at is a lot of new vehicles have a lot of technology in them. They have sensors, they have cameras, they have, LiDAR, and they have all this stuff all over the car, in the fenders, behind the grill, that sort of thing. And when you get in an accident, it's no longer just a case of taking it down to Larry at the auto body shop and he pounds it up with a ball peen hammer. Sometimes these sensors are delicate. They need to be replaced. They need to be aligned properly to do their job with safety and performance. And that means expense and more technical ability. That these auto body shops is not just a guy with a hammer. Now it needs to be a technician who's got a lot of training. That means more expense. So what do you think? I mean, are we just doomed to head in this direction where cars become ever more technical and ever more expensive to keep and maintain? I think so, because unfortunately, a lot of these sensors are, as they come out, oh, this is a great new feature, isn't this wonderful? And the federal government says, good, now it's mandatory. Right. That's why every car now has backup cameras. They're mandatory. Every car has the backup sensors. They're mandatory. And I think of my pickup. It's a 13-year-old pickup. Its fanciest features is backup assist, backup cameras, and sensors. And just the parts for those sensors is $300 to $400. Yeah. Because each sensor, each of the 4 backup sensors is $25. The camera is $200 plus. And that's just the parts. That's not installing. That's not tuning, making sure it's working. And this is a 13-year-old truck. I can't imagine, if someone rear-ended you with a modern vehicle today, what that would cost. Right.
Yeah, that's why when I got my new Subaru, new to me Subaru, I opted for the extended warranty, but for the technology part. My husband looked at me and I said, no. There's too much technology in these cars now. We can afford the fender. It's the camera underneath the fender that we're going to get,
that
boomed on.
changes
So
the
let's
calculus.
not do that.
Yeah.
But in full disclosure, I need those backup cameras because I can't back up worth the dime. And I'm so much better now because of backup cameras that, I'll pay for it.
I'm terrible at parallel parking, so I get it. And being able to look in the mirror, especially when, again, it's a truck where the back end's way back there.
Yeah.
And be able to look and look, oh, I got it. It's only one beep, 2 beeps, 3 beeps. Okay, now pull forward.
The safety features in my high school buddy's 66 Buick Skylark was basically that it was made of steel and was the size of a boat. But that was it, and he actually one time had a Fiero crash into him. He was coming out of his driveway and it crashed into right above the front wheel. The Fiero busted into a million pieces because if people don't know, Pontiac Fieros were basically plastic cars. His car rocked a little and had a tiny dent above the wheel. Well, the Fiero was totaled. But, that's not what we drive today. We have cars that, it's just coming up in a few years, we're going to have automatic emergency braking mandated because they have found that when cars have these sensors and will brake automatically when drivers are tired or not attentive, it saves lives.
Yep.
So I get that, but it is making the idea that everybody can afford to have a car less universal than it used to be. I have to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is why a car that, that model was $20,000 10, 15 years ago is now $40,000.
Yep.
And it's not just inflation. It's because what they have to put in the cars. And that fancy iPad thing they put in your cars. Oh yeah, that costs money.
Yeah, more than an iPad does. And used cars are going to be sticking around. An old pre-tech Chevy or Ford that's still on the road, people are gonna love those for a long time to come. I tell you that. I'm less likely, frankly, to buy a used car for a kid who's got his license. That's for sure. I can't afford that. We barely can afford the 2 cars we got now.
$500 and he has to work on it every day. That's the ideal first car.
That was me. That was my first car.
That was me.
My what was it? Plymouth Duster, 73 Plymouth Duster, Bumblebee yellow with a black stripe. Love
mine was a 74 Plymouth Duster, 2-tone brown with a vinyl alligator skin top or snake skin top.
I had a 71 Impala rust colored. It was a hand me down from my father.
Yep, mine was a hand me down. Yeah.
Was it painted rust color or became rust color?
No, it was painted rust color, and I could get 9 kids in the car.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. Like my buddy's Skylark. We used to joke that he rented out the trunk to a family that needed an apartment. Like he was huge. We called it Das Boot.
I still want to just get it like an old 1980s, Ford pickup and just. The fanciest thing on there has got fuel injection. That's it.
80s Ford F-150. Man, a friend of mine had one of those in standard, drove in traffic with that, though. Oh, he's like, he developed a huge left leg. It was a workout. All right. So now that we're done with that trip down automotive memory lane, let's move on to our picks of the week. And Father Cory, why don't you go first?
So my pick is something, it's kind of silly, it's kind of fun, it's kind of pointless, but there's great prank opportunity here or slack off at work opportunity here. It's called whitescreen.online. And what it does is it literally it's in your browser and you can full screen a color. And so it could be used for things like, say, if you're doing podcasting, you could use it as a front light for you put it on your screen, full screen. And so now you've got that white light on your face, like you would have have a display or, like an actual light. It can do other colors. So like if you have a big TV behind you, you could do green screen with it. Where the prank comes in, where the fun comes in, you can do a broken screen where you full screen it and it looks like your screen's broken, or a blue screen of death. You could do a hacker typer where it's like, the movies where they're literally scrolling the Linux source code. By the way, most movies, if you see source code scrolling, it's the Linux source code.
Oh, that's funny.
Almost always, because it's free. They just download it and they scroll it and no one cares.
Yeah.
So as you type with this hacker typer, it scrolls the source code in with your typing.
Oh my.
But then if you're at work and you need, let's say, a half an hour off. Oh, Windows 11 is updating itself. Set timer for 30 minutes. Hit go. It's the scrolling Windows update.
That's funny. I just did the full screen of the blue screen of death from Windows, and it actually gave me a little heart palpitation for a second. Like, I know it's not real, but man, you see those things.
So, coworker walks away from his desk and forgets to lock it. You throw this up real quick and just gotta sit there and my work.
Well, the one that gave me a heart attack was the Windows XP screen.
Yeah.
The updating one that gave me a headache.
It would be funny to put this up on a Mac, like the Windows update, or put the Mac update up on the Windows machine and really mess with people
or something like that. Who put Ubuntu on my machine? So this is more or less a pointless website, but it's fun. It's fun. And again, it's that April Fool's Day coworker you like to either you get along with really well and you do pranks, or you want to really annoy. And so you throw up the blue screen of death or the Windows update or something like that.
We got to remember this for next day, April Fool's Day. We can do an episode on April Fool's pranks.
There you go.
That's a good one. All right, Joanne, what's your pick this week?
Oh, quick, I'm saving this. You have no idea. This is going to be good. You both shared what YouTube apps that you use to get the YouTube to your devices. Mine I talked about it, maybe about a year and a half ago.
Right, I remember that.
Wondershare All My Tube.
Okay.
And the one thing I like about Wondershare is it's cross-platform, so it's Mac or Windows. And you not only go in and put the URL, but if you have one that won't work, you can record the screen.
Okay.
There's the difference.
Yeah.
You can actually record the screen. It takes a little bit of finessing, of maybe about the third time you finally get the hang of it. Because you have to get it right in the middle, or you have to bring it to exactly where you want it, and then it just runs. And as long as the video is running, but you have to play the whole video, so you may have to walk away, come back.
Right.
It'll also just take the audio as well.
Right. Okay.
So if you just want audio and not the video, it'll take that down too. So it's very versatile. You can buy it for one machine, I believe, for $30.
Yeah.
You, of course, if you have more machines, you need the license. But I've been using it, I'd say, for at least 15 years, and it's really been my go-to app for this type of thing. And again, just use it for what we do at the church to make sure we don't have those inappropriate commercials come on.
Right.
If you're using it for anything else, you have to go to confession.
It was funny when you're talking about recording it right off the screen. I was thinking of, remember when people would hook two VCRs together?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And duplicate? You literally would have to play the entire
an
movie.
Hour, 2 hours. Yeah. That's true.
Yep. Exactly.
All right, Joanne. So I mentioned I had a pick for you. So this is the pick. It's perplexity.ai. This is an AI search engine. And one of the things that sets it apart from doing using ChatGPT to search for information is ChatGPT, the model is set. The information that it uses is always going to be older. It's not up to date. At the moment, they don't have the most recent, they don't, I don't know what 4.0 is like, but ChatGPT 4 was locked as of last September or October, something like that.
Right.
Whereas any information post that wasn't available, wasn't in the model. Perplexity.ai, they call it's an answer engine. It's not a search engine. It's very clever marketing. Mm-hmm. But what you do is you enter in a question or something you're looking for information on. I can look at some of my most recent ones. I asked it. Here's a good one. Last week I asked it, what are the main features of the main differences and features between Apple Music, YouTube Music, Spotify, and Amazon Music. So it came up with an answer and with an outline. But it also has sources. So it gives me links to websites where the information is available. And then it also footnotes all of the information. This is something ChatGPT doesn't do. It doesn't cite its sources. That's a big element in one of the differences. You could use it to do things like, I asked it to compare two different pellet grills. I said, what are the main differences between these two different pellet grills? And it gave me, and it doesn't have to be like main differences. I said, what is the best tree service near me? And it it found the information. I could have gone to Yelp, I suppose, or whatever, but it's found this sort of information. Last week, it came up in our discussion I was talking to Thomas Sanherho about there's a service where you can, I remember hearing about a service where you can enter in a link to a song on Spotify, and it will give you the links to all the same song on all the other services. So I said, is there an app or service that lets you put in a link to a song on one particular music service, and it gives you the appropriate link to the same song on other services? That's exactly what I wrote. And it gave me exactly what I needed. I didn't have to figure out what's the best way to phrase it for Google and all this sort of stuff. So Perplexity is free for the basic model, the basic service. They do have a pro version, the smarter AI, they said. You could do image uploads and search for similar images and that sort of thing. I haven't found the need for it yet, but maybe in the future I will. You do get 5 pro searches a month on the free plan, and give you a little taste. But I'm recommending this to people because it so far has done a lot of what I use Google for. Man, this really hits it. Like sometimes I just want to Google an actor's name and get the IMDb page or whatever, and that's fine. I use Google for that. But for this, man, for more complex things, this has been really great. So perplexity.ai.
It looks good.
Yeah. Don, last time, I think it was when I was with Victor, we talked about AI and mentioned something like this, where it's a search engine, but then it gives you the summary.
Right. This kind of goes, like Brave will do that. If you do a search in Brave, it does the searches and will give you websites. And then at the top, it will summarize. This isn't primarily about finding the websites. This is about just giving you the answer. But it does have the sources with it, which is the links to the websites. Exactly. Good. Right. And then it will give you related searches or related questions like you might also have. I think I used it like when I was like, I can never remember. What are the exact steps for using jumper cables on a car? Like there's an order to put them on. And I just put it in, and it gave me right there. I didn't have to wade through ads and find the WikiHow article and someone's bad description of it. I was gonna say the article where it's like, how do you properly attach jumper cables? And it's like, I remember when I was a kid and my dad had this problem and he yelled at me because I wasn't holding the flashlight right. And here's how you do it: plug this, done. Right. This wades through all that, and because it has the most up to date, it's like it's using the web as it is today. So if you ask it a current event sort of question, it will be able to answer that as well. So nice. I could ask it to summarize what the Pope said in his interview with 60 Minutes. I wonder if I could do that. Actually, I'm just got off the top of my head. I wonder if it would, how it would do.
You could try that.
Yeah. And you can ask follow-up questions as well, by the way. So you can, like in the same search, okay, but what about this? And what about that? And it will, use the context of what you just asked it. So I really like it. I think it's fantastic, frankly. And so I'm recommending it. I had it on my list. I had a different pick this week until you mentioned that, Joanne. I said, nope, we got to talk about this now.
Oh. I just did that search on the Pope, and talking about war in Ukraine, conflicts in Gaza, anti-Semitism, sexual abuse scandal, church attendance.
And you could probably dig down. What did the Pope say about, I don't know, women deaconesses? Like you could probably dig into that and get, more precise information. So it's a great tool for researching things, looking for specific things. So.
Yep, already got it.
Get the app. So that's it from us this time. We would love to know what you think of anything we had to discuss today, and let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology or the StarQuest Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Send an email to technology@sqpn.com. Visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. You'll find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at starquest.fm/TEC257. That's the show number. Remember to like each episode where you find us on Facebook or on X, where we're at SQPN, and be sure to leave us comments on social media. We love to hear from you. Until next time, Father Cory Sticha, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
Thank you, Dom.
Joanne Mercer here, thank you as well.
Thanks, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.